Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about a core coaching competency, presence. But we're not just going to rehash the old definitions. We're going to get into what presence is on a biological level, and honestly, how that changes pretty much everything.
So, let's start with an idea that's super common in coaching. This idea that presence is a kind of performance. You know the drill, right? We're taught to project calm, to build rapport, to hold space, a lot of focus on the external stuff, the behaviors.
Okay, so what does it actually feel like when we're trying to act present? Well, this focus on performance can create this huge gap between how we look on the outside and what's really going on inside.
Take a look at this. On the left, you've got the performer coach. Internally, their mind is just buzzing, right? What do I ask next? Am I messing this up? Their body is tense. But over on the right, the truly present coach is in a totally different state. They're experiencing this grounded ease, they're tuned into their client, and they feel safe.
And here is the absolute key. Our internal state is contagious. We are constantly broadcasting our physiological state to the person across from us. A coach who is just acting calm is still unconsciously transmitting tension. But a coach who is genuinely regulated, they transmit safety.
So, this question right here, this is where everything shifts. This is the pivot point for our whole explainer today. It invites us to completely reframe this core competency. What if we stop trying to do presence and instead we start learning how to be present?
All right, let's get into the heart of it. The core idea here is that true presence begins below the neck. This isn't some kind of mind hack or a cognitive trick. It's a physiological state that's rooted deep in our nervous system.
So, here's the big reframe we've been building up to. Presence is our embodied ability to stay connected with ourselves and tuned in to our client, especially when things get a little intense. It's not about what you do, it's about the state you're in, right there, in your body, in that exact moment.
And this is exactly why this shift is so important. Think about it. You can't just act your way into being calm if your body is sending out red alerts that a situation feels unsafe. Your body's truth will always win out over your brain's performance. This means that all those amazing tools we have in our coaching toolkit, the powerful questions, the active listening, all the models, they're only as effective as the regulated state we bring to them. Without that embodied presence, even the best techniques can just feel, well, hollow and mechanical. Okay, so let's geek out for a minute and get into the science of how this actually works. Because what's happening in any conversation is this incredible real-time interplay between two nervous systems. This whole concept is called co-regulation, and you already know how this works. You know how a calm parent can soothe a crying baby just by holding them close? It is the exact same principle at play in coaching. Our calm, regulated nervous system can actually help our client system move out of a state of stress and into a place of creativity and insight. It's amazing. So to understand this a bit better, here's a simple map of our nervous system states, and this is based on polyvagal theory. Now that top one, the ventral vagal state, that's our sweet spot. That's where we feel safe, we feel social. It is the biological home of presence. Stress can easily push us down into a sympathetic or a dorsal vagal state, and those states actually inhibit connection. Okay, so now let's bring all of this back home and connect it to something every professional coach knows, the ICF's core competency on presence. Let's see how this deepens our understanding.
So the ICF, they give us this really beautiful description of what presence looks like from the outside, right? Open, flexible, grounded, and confident. We all know these words. But here's the question we're asking today. What is the biology behind that? What's actually happening inside a coach's body that allows them to be this way? What's the foundation for these qualities?
Okay, think about this. To be fully conscious, like the definition says, you need the thinking part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, to be fully online. But the moment your nervous system senses even a tiny threat, and this could be just an awkward pause in the conversation, it starts pulling resources away from that thinking brain and puts them into survival mode. So maintaining presence is biologically dependent on having a regulated body. And that brings us to maybe the most important takeaway of all. When we talk about being grounded, it's not just some nice floaty metaphor. It is a real, physical, physiological condition in your body. So if we accept this, that presence is physiological, what does that actually mean for us as coaches? How do we get better at it? Well, the focus has to shift from trying to do more to simply being more. The work becomes about building the capacity of our nervous system. So that means things like preparing our system before we even get on a call, learning the skills to stay regulated during a session, and knowing how to reset and discharge that energy after it's over.
And here is the beautiful paradox in all of this. The path to mastery often means you actually start doing less. Instead of constantly digging for the next right question, your primary job becomes stewarding your own state and then trusting that the quiet, powerful work of co-regulation is happening all on its own.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to really chew on in your own practice. What if your single greatest coaching tool isn't a clever question or a framework, but it's your own regulated nervous system? What would that change for you and for your clients?